Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Arcane Assist. I'm Rebecca, and this week I'm joined by a very special guest. Ryan is up from Buffalo, New York, co-host of the Blightbringers podcast, and a Legion player of some incredible regard. He's here to show off some of his Legion skills. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. You are giving me way more credit than I am due by a very long shot.
I'm told you're a big deal on the Discord.
That
Confirm?
is very untrue. I am a tiny deal in all scenarios.
Well, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We had a really good game, and we're excited to share it with you. We're going to take a moment to go over lists. So I won the die roll, and we are playing Spread the Net.
Spread that butter.
In our goal of playing all of the Steamroller scenarios for you in the intervening time. I'm playing Wurmwood, which is a little bit of a throwback for me. I haven't played Wurmwood in ages. Playing it in Bones of Orboros. My list has Wurmwood and, of course, his companion Cassius. My Cassius is converted from a Morvana 1 and a Cassius model and a whole bunch of green stuff, so it's just a female version of Cassius.
Looks super good, by the way.
I like to refer to as Cassandra. Yeah, thanks. I'm not bad at sculpting when I put my attention to it. I have a Wold Guardian, a Wold Warden. Is that right? I confuse wolves. 3 Wold Weirds, 1 Wold Guardian, 1 Megalith, and 1 Wold Warden. Yep, that's right. Geomancy, heavy. Good.
Checks out.
That's the battle group. I have a Gallows Grove, Blackclad, Linus Arisal. I have 2 units of Shifting Stones, 1 with the attachment, 1 without. My requisition options are 2 Sentry Stones and 2, as a single requisition option, Blackclad Stone Shapers. I also have a max unit of Bone Grinders, but last time Evan recorded with pigs, he borrowed all of the Bone Grinders and only returned a min unit to me, which would normally be fine. So you're going to see like the understudy Bone Grinders who are Murder Crows, and they're going to get killed on the first turn to become Wurmwood corpses.
They're just really sneaking in. That's their job.
The next level ambush. They're ambushing into a different game. So what have you brought for us, Ryan?
I've got Fyanna2 with Golab, 3 Nerfs, a Seraph, 2 Sorceress on Hellions for free because Raven's OP. Kralix also for free. 2 Forsaken, a Spell Martyr, a Feral Geist, a max unit of Strider Scouts with the Officer and Musician, and a full unit of Little Birds, otherwise known as Rotwings.
Those Rotwings, they are pretty amazing.
Them birds, though.
All right, so without further ado, we'll jump right into the game.
Yeah, all right, so we got the roll-off, and Becca went first, I believe.
Yeah, I won the die roll here. Our table's kind of interesting. We've got a few things. This is the Scorn terrain set that Ian built for us. We're playing it right now on an actual desert table, which is actually, it's kind of funny. We rarely end up playing with the desert set on a desert table. Ryan was courteous enough to bring up some Canadian WTC fundraiser mats. So we've got these slightly nicer looking mats for our particular game here.
Happy to help. It's literally all I'm here for.
You'll see he has all the bling. He's got the nice widget set. He's got the full Muse token set. Like everything in this army looks pretty gorgeous.
I'm not good at this game, but I make it look like I am by having the right accessories.
I'm playing like a super dated list, so you've got this. I deploy maybe a third of my army, just kind of lazily. I got the Bone Grinders down there. Most things I'm putting down pretty centrally. A lot of my army gets to AD, so I get to be pretty reactive, which is one of the things that I like. The first turn gets to be this really unpacking turn where I've also got a lot of opportunity to react. So,
yeah, that checks out. I'm looking at terrain and thinking, okay, well, there's a nice wall in front of me, so Fyanna can kind of hang out behind that and not hopefully die turn 1. Not that I think that's a thing Wurmwood can necessarily do, but I never discount it. He's got some reach.
Indeed.
After that, it's really just kind of spreading everything else out. Having triple Nerf is certainly helpful. Gives you a lot of movement, a lot of no one piece is necessarily more important than another. Mm-hmm. Golab is, of course, Golab, and he wants to be near the center of the action, although I'm admittedly very cautious because Stranglehold is a thing that exists in this list, and it exists in spades.
The Stranglehold is definitely like the featured element of this list. If this was a dish and we were making it on some kind of a cooking show, you'd say that Stranglehold was very well represented.
Yeah, bladed cooking. Just what everybody needs.
I mean, I feel like, you're making use of flight as your principal ingredient.
Yeah, there's a lot of flight, a lot of Pathfinder. I think the only thing in the list that doesn't have one of the two is a Forsaken. So yeah. Terrain is pretty irrelevant for me.
That's pretty strong. I mean, obviously one of the things Wurmwood wants to do is play a lot of like terrain mitigation games. But my list has a lot of access to prowl, a lot of access to stealth, a lot of tools for blocking line of sight with forests. The forests are good for blocking line of sight. They're not good for preventing the movement. They're not good for slowing you down. So a lot of the kind of control tools that are present in this list are not very exciting. However, Lanissa is super exciting. She's great.
Oh, I hate her so much. I was really, really hoping that you wouldn't have her, and then as soon as I saw the list, it made me sad. I hate her so much.
Yeah, I actually thought about putting a black clad in instead, a second black clad. I've got one, and I'm like, redundant hunter's mark is useful. Lanissa's good, or it could be a black clad. If it's a black clad, I can still, it's friendly faction. Occasionally that comes up, and but with Lanissa, you can deny the Pathfinder in that big chunk of space. So that's a really good rule in combination with Wurmwood's thing. Yep. And then I get my list to the table, and I'm like, so what are you playing? And you're like, well, obviously Legion. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's good too.
Yep. Take away Flight, take away Eyeless Sight. My list gets real sad if it gets too close.
So there's a neat thing with the Striders, where the musician is kind of like a repeater bubble for the command
as
range.
long as the musician's in the command range of the leader guy, then everybody in his command range is counted as being in command. So it lets them get very, very wide. They have something like a 14 or 16-inch footprint close to with bases.
Yeah. So I see that, and I'm like, if I kill the musician right now, then those guys are going to be out of command. And I look, and I'm like, no, that's a little bit outside of the insanely long threat range I've got for that. Okay, I'll just kill the officer instead. He actually seems more important.
That's pretty good, and I did not really consider that. For some reason, I thought, bottom of one, they'll be safe. There's stealth. There's no way you're going to be able to get to them. Oh, that's right. Double porting is still a thing.
So this is a weird interaction that a lot of people don't think about. So obviously something that's been affected by teleportation can't be affected by teleportation a second time. So if you take a unit of shifting stones and you shift something, you can't shift it a second time. But what you can do is you can teleport the leader model of the other unit of stones, not the stone unit that you're using to teleport, but the other unit 8 inches forward. Now, most of its units now out of formation, but it is still in formation because it's the leader. It can now choose to shift another 8 inches forward. So in a way, that's kind of a way to get a double teleport. The reason that's important in Wurmwood is because once you've thrown that stone, way, way, way up the board, you can move an Arc Node up, send a Hellmouth out, and you can grab everything within 3 inches of that stone, which you hit on not double ones. So it's relatively low resource investment because you don't have a lot of upkeeps you have to put out or anything like that. There's not a lot of stuff you need to do on the first turn. So you can do all of those things, and it costs you basically the leader model on your stone.
Yep, you get to be very aggressive with them, and we're going to see how that turns out for me. Note, it is not well. I end up, I believe, losing that guy this turn, as well as 2 others. I think is going to be coming up here in a second, maybe.
Yeah. So a couple things happen for me. I roll some fury up on my stones. The shifting stones move up. They take up aggressive positions. They lay down clouds. Lanissa runs and hides behind them. I move up some other things behind them. And then this Hellmouth happens. I don't roll double ones to hit, and we kill. And I debate for a second. I'm like, do I boost this? No, I'm just going to keep all the resources, and I roll the at least 4 necessary to kill him, and I kill all 3 of them.
Yeah, it's a sad day for me.
Now, these guys are removed from play, which is why I didn't move Wurmwood up to an aggressive position to collect their corpses, because when they're removed from play, you don't get any corpses from them. But I'm still super happy with having sent them up there. Wurmwood now spends a couple more fury to put down a rapid growth. I just put that forest fairly far forward. This lets me put things up. And the last fury he spends, he casts the Wold Warden's Animus, which creates a 4-inch forest on top of you and says you can't be moved, pushed, or placed.
Yep. The move, push, or place at this point isn't super relevant, I don't think.
I think it's mostly supposed to restrict my behavior.
Yeah.
If Wurmwood, could place another forest and then teleport behind it, or if Baldur could create a forest and then be placed with Forest Walk, I think that's one of the reasons that Animus is the way that it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's a lot of just positioning this turn. It's a lot of preparing for what is sure to come.
I move up all of my guns into threatening positions. The Woldweirds have so many shots.
I hate those things so much.
Yeah, they're a little bit limited on their access to boosting, but just the volume of them. There's 9 purgation shots in this list that Fyanna has to respect and worry about.
Yep, especially when she has 3 upkeeps and she wants to be using all of them every turn.
Or in this case, isn't going to because they get her blown up.
Yeah, they sure do. Turns out when most of your army is Arm 16, POW 12 boosts will absolutely murder things.
Speaking of murdering things, my little pig friends are killing the murder crow imposters.
They figured out that they weren't there, supposed to be there.
Yeah, and they're dead now. So I kill 3 of them, the 2 murder crows and 1 guy who just, is an unlucky pig who decided to get eaten. Bone grinders do have tough, but they also have access to a attack type for grievous, so they're just killing each other with grievous wounds, not needing to worry about it.
Yep.
It's, mat 6 on defense, effective 10 in the back, so they're needing 4s to hit and then 5s to kill. Like, it's pretty reliable. And that gets 3 corpses up for Wurmwood, which next turn are going to turn into Fury, and I will be a Fury 10 caster.
Feels good, I'm sure. I wish I had one of those.
I mean, still only magic ability 7, so really it's fair and balanced.
Yeah, is that how that works? I don't know if that's how that works.
Hashtag fair and balanced.
Fair enough. So my turn, I look at the board and kind of figure that, all right, well, Seraph's going to take his Apparition move because Apparition is great. I try not to forget about it, and I usually end up doing just that because...
It's something in Grimkin I forget about fairly often at the Gremlins Worms.
Yeah, you pay for it, and then it's only ever relevant for like a turn or two most of the time, especially on a heavy like that's just kind of sitting in the backfield. So I do my normal thing where I spend, way too much time thinking out my turn instead of actually doing anything and measuring out random crap to see, if I did this instead of, actually moving or doing anything else.
I mean, I went first, and I think I took a 10-minute first turn, so you're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, it's a thing I should be doing better, I think, but oh well. So Striders make their move up. They pop a couple shots into the little twig boys because there's not really anything else for them to shoot at. Losing Repo was kind of a big deal for them. They still have Hunter, which is nice. They, still ignore concealment and cover, which helps. The 2 on the far side run over to try and get back in command, and I believe they do. And then
Poor guys.
They try so hard. And then out of, 3 shots, first one misses despite everything. The second one, I believe, actually gets his boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
then,
I think they need, 6s to hit and 3s to kill or something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
They're Rat 6, POW 10 with Hunter.
Yep.
So, yeah,
so they're
right.
ignoring the cover and everything.
Yep. But only 1 out of 3 hits their shots because sad boys.
They have CRA again now, right?
They do have CRA again. It's one of those, you think you can hit hard 6s right up until you can't hit hard 6s.
Fair.
So now I remember to get my Fury out because I'm well prepared for this game, and I definitely thought ahead for all of these things.
Yeah, I did a little bit of that in my first turn, just unpacking stuff and being like, what are we doing? What's going on? Yep. It's one of those things where you start your first game of the morning is always
It's a little awkward.
Mm-hmm.
So just pre-measuring out a Sork if it moved up there kind of thing. I don't believe I end up moving it up there because that's kind of throwing away a Sorceress because there's enough there that will absolutely kill it, and they're semi-important.
Yeah, it's just trying. There's a lot of guns. So the Sorceress on Hellion isn't just free charges in this list. There's also a lot of ranged attack denial.
Yes. Wind Ravager is really good, and if you can keep it for the late game, especially against the Woldwyrds, you can absolutely make them into just road bumps. They can't make gunfighter attacks. They can't make their normal attacks.
Yep.
They just go away.
Yeah, and if you engage them and Wind Ravager, like you've got a 2-inch melee, so the idea that you'd sort of walk 8, repo 3, and have 2 inches of melee, like that's a pretty long threat on just like engaging them and Wind Ravagering.
Yep.
And if you do that, they can back away and take a free strike and not necessarily even get out of Wind Ravager range.
Nope.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty good for me if it worked out that way. Note, it doesn't. It never does. Nothing ever works out the way you want it to.
I mean, we shall see.
Golab goes up and he eats that stone boy that dared to cross into the midline.
He was also damaged from the Hellmouth, so Golab just charged for free and was like, don't roll 4 1s, dead stone.
Yep. Then he sprints, and I play with his position a little bit because I'm constantly thinking, okay, well, he could get Hellmouthed forward because that's an annoying thing that could happen. Or there is a lot of Stranglehold in this list, and I would really prefer for him to not be Stranglehold all game. A turn or 2 I could probably deal with, but if he's all game locked down, it's real bad for me.
Wurmwood's a weird caster to play against because I think you have to sort of evaluate how smart you think your opponent is. Is my opponent capable of seeing all of the Wurmwood vectors? If so, I have to spend a huge amount of time anticipating all of these things and all of these plans. Is my opponent not that great? Are they only capable of seeing like this deep into the Wurmwood vector? Okay, well, fine. I don't have to worry about that. I can play way more conservative.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in this scenario, I kind of thought you probably know what you were doing with them, so I figured best to play conservatively and assume that you're seeing at least everything I am.
Fair.
Yeah. So Seraph, slipstreams, goes up, rolls his shots, gets 3 shots, hits the first one, and then proceeds to miss the next 2. Though I believe he does 4 or 5 points of damage.
Yeah, he rolls with authority on that first shot.
Yep. He was ready for it.
Seraph looked up and he said, yeah, 1 shot, that's what we get. And you roll a 3, and he's like, 1 shot, that's what we get.
Mm-hmm. So he hard rolled the 8 and then proceeded to miss 2 6s. I probably should have boosted one, but I was really hoping he'd get one of them and I could boost damage. That would have been nice.
Alack.
Yep, this is poor planning on my part, I guess.
Hardly. I mean, I do almost exactly the same with the Wildraids. I'm like, let's try to see the hits. Maybe the volume of shots will make up for it, and I can boost on damage.
Yeah, that seems to work.
They're weird pieces because being only Fury 2, you kind of have to pick your boosts really strategically.
Yep. Seraph is much the same way. You get the slipstream, and you kind of always have to assume he's Fury 2 after that because that's his main job.
It is. Although, he does have crit poison.
He does. That melee attack totally can come in handy at some point, eventually.
So this is... sorry, I'm just trying to... Oh, it's the Sorcerer and Hellion.
Yep.
Yeah, you moved up the Sorceress and Hellion. She's not quite on the flag, although it's not yet particularly relevant, but she did put up Wind Ravager.
Yep, she's in the forest, so I'm hoping Def 16 will help a little bit. I believe the...
This is... Admo on Golab and Fury on the
No, none of that. This is sincerely hating my life that I can't put out any of my upkeeps. Because, again, Arm 16 just dies to purgation shots. There's no survivability there.
Those 2 wolves are drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, quite literally. It's a magical line that says, I will absolutely blow you up.
And it's in the sand.
Quite literally.
It's so good.
Is that what we're calling it? Okay, I guess.
I mean, for certain values of sand, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. So otherwise, I'm moving Nerefs up. They're running and getting into fairly aggressive positions. Kind of just hoping that, again, I know Stranglehold is a thing. I'm hoping that some of them miss because Def 14. I'm hoping that there's enough other things that you want to do that maybe everything doesn't just casually get held out where it is.
One of the things you debated was feeding this turn. I think
Yes.
during the course of the game you said, maybe I have to feed here, and elected to take just sort of a conservative approach to it. Do you want to talk about your reasoning there?
Yeah. So because of the amount of guns in this list, because the amount of, denial, area denial, spell denial, everything, that just makes me sad. The thought was if I could go up really aggressively and maybe feat bottom of 1, everything's Def 17, and maybe you end up having to boost more or miss a couple shots, and that gets me into melee range. I eventually kind of just look at it and say, no, that's not... It's a thing you can do, but it's maybe not ideal, and I think it just lets you back up a little bit. I get some board position back if I really, if you wanted to play conservatively, but it doesn't really feel like it nets me anything, so it doesn't seem worth it.
That makes sense to me.
If it was reversed and maybe I had gone first and it was a top of 2, then I think I probably would have went for it. But bottom of 1, just there's not scenario pressure yet. There's nothing.
Not enough things for me to not just say I'm going to maybe cap my flag, maybe cap my zone, but otherwise keep things pretty far back.
Your threat range, or my max threat range, is 11 to 13 inches with Slipstream, so it's not too hard to back up and say, hey, I'm out of 13 but still relevant on scenario, and I'm just going to come at you next turn.
Yeah, that's a pretty important considerations.
Yep. Otherwise, we're just moving Forsaken up, counting Fury, and getting it on him because I miscounted by 1. I swear I'm good at this game.
I mean, having a sort of Fury ready on a Forsaken isn't a terrible thing either.
No, especially if it's only 1 or 2. And now my birds are laterally deploying because there is a lot of sprays over there, and birds do not like sprays.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about being able to reactively deploy because of all of my AD. After you put the birds up on this top side, I was like, okay, both Sentry Stones are up here. and you made the conscious and deliberate choice to intelligently move the birds down, and I think that was quite clever. I was expecting to have a lot of incidental attacks that could just also clip birds with sprays or also take out a lot of birds while trying to do attrition work to your heavies, and you've just completely denied that to me, which I think was a smart plan.
Yep, I make good choices sometimes, I guess. But it was, there's access to Hellmouth, there's all the sprays, they just die up there. It'd be one thing if Hellmouth was blast damage, because then maybe Iron Flesh goes out.
Sure, yeah. But even then,
but then you're taking Wold Weird shots at him, which that at least feels okay, because you still probably have, you get the auto boost. Yeah, it's still probably okay. I'd still probably more okay with that. At most, you're only killing 6 of them then.
Yeah, and then you're hoping that the Wold Weirds are shooting them instead of the Wold Weirds are shooting your heavies.
Yeah, exactly. So,
so
I've over to you.
Got some decisions to make this turn. One of the factors I have to consider is I've got 10 Fury. What do I do with it? And I feel like with Wurmwood, a lot of the time, every single turn, you have to sit down and say, what can I take out? What do I need to take out? And what am I going to lock down? And that's sort of the choice that I'm making. There's a lot of appealing options, a lot of things that I could Hellmouth or could control position with or could maybe take. But the question is, should I, and what does it cost me? So the first things that I do is I move the stones. I know the stones are going to have to port something. They end up porting Wurmwood up into that trench, and the Stonekeeper throws a rock hammer. It misses, but it still clips blast on that Strider and manages to kill another Strider. So that is Wurmwood's first corpse for this turn. I then have my Sentry Stones go next. A couple of them are just advancing. One of them was placed this turn, and he got to aim. So I've got a few sprays. And then Ryan immediately points out that I am in Wind Ravager range.
Which is a thing I thought we checked, but we did not.
Oh, no, I started measuring my ranges and started thinking about it and started positioning it. And mentally, a part of my brain said, and earlier in the turn, something else will kill this model, so these guys will be able to spray. But I went into autopilot mode, and that unit functionally did not get to take their turn, and that is fine.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about that one.
And you should not. So the Wold shoots from outside of Wind Ravager range, gets a couple of solid hits and a damage boost that finishes her off.
Yep, he gets his hard 8s to just take that Sork right out of the fight.
Yeah, my thought was roll the first one, and then you can boost the next 2. The first one hits, so I boosted damage on it. And then I was like, okay, roll the next one, and if it hits, you can boost damage, and if it doesn't, you boost to hit the last one, and it just hit 2. So 2 consecutive hard 8s is already great.
Yep, that's pretty good. Made me a little sad, but...
Unexpected, but not unwelcome.
I heard that a lot this game.
We had a few of those moments.
Well,
So it's now Megalith's opportunity to trample. So I'm just checking the 8. Make sure he's trampling alongside Wurmwood. He's not clipping anything. From that position, what can he stranglehold? I'm looking at strangleholding the furthest back Seraph because I don't think Megalith can stranglehold. I mean, he can stranglehold basically anything there.
Yeah.
The question is, what do I want to hit with it?
Yeah, he goes after the far back Narif. I believe he's going to get moved in a second here.
Yeah, I'm debating a couple of things. One of the things that I was debating is do I undergrowth this turn? Do I have an opportunity to it? If I do, I can tag a couple of Striders with the debuff. I opt to instead boost hit and damage on the Stranglehold, which I think is a safer line of play.
Yes, and you get that back Seraph, or Narif rather.
Yeah, I don't do a ton of damage to it, but I'm putting in chip damage. Again, this list plays a little bit like a gunline on the approach that has, a couple of relevant heavies in the late game. Yep. So I'm trying to control pieces, I'm trying to attrition with those guns, and I'm trying to, deal with the things I can deal with and ignore the things I can't.
Yep, that checks out. And because of the way Stranglehold works, you're fairly safe from retaliation. There's not a lot of ways to get any of those stone boys and bring them forward. It's kind of hard once, 1 or 2 pieces get hit by that to actually be able to respond appropriately. And that can let you basically take a turn untouched.
Yeah, it's not like having a kind of feat every turn, but it's many of those control elements. Feels a little bit like Haley 2 used to in Mark 2, where you had to be very, very deliberate about your choices and really understand what was going on and understand your opponent's army. But if you did, you could lock them down and have them barely able to participate.
Yep.
I'm on 2 corpses with Wurmwood now. Managed to kill another Strider.
Yep.
So 2 corpses is pretty good. I'd like the 3rd, but here's hoping.
Yep. Take 2. It's probably fine.
The Gallows Grove moves up and is now within range of scoring the flag. So that'll be a next turn proposition, but I'm still in position to do it. The Wold walks up into the rubble and boosts it a Stranglehold. Geomancy at the Nerf?
Yes.
Yep. Geomancy at the Nerf.
Yep.
Yeah, the far Nerf there. Actually kind of spikes the damage a little bit.
Sure does. I believe he takes 6 or 7 off of him.
Yeah, and I'm immediately thinking to myself, like, okay, well, if that's, that's more effective than I expected, maybe I can just kill him. So I aim with the Wold. I get to boost damage, and the Wold also rolls pretty well.
Yep. Your Wolds rolled fairly well all game long.
Yeah, I mean, one or two misses, but had good targets of opportunity. Dice -4 is a great place for it to be, and manages to just annihilate it.
Just blow up that Nerf on me.
Taking a heavy off with guns before Fyanna's had an opportunity to defeat is huge.
Yep, that's 12 points I'm not getting back.
So the other Wold gets 1 damage boost and then misses its next 2 shots. So they take.
It evens out a little bit. It evens out.
Missed 2 6s. That's okay. I figured it was worth trying for either of the 6s because if either of them hit, I can boost damage. But when they both miss, that's not the end of the world.
No.
The unit of stones that has now been leader model promoted back, the 2 of them poured up to offer Serenity and possibly Healing Field next turn. Both Stone Shapers just did the Quiet the Stones effect this turn, took a Fury off to kind of help me with my Fury management a little bit. This list is really good at managing its own Fury because it has so many Serenity options. It reaves so much, and anything that you don't reave from doesn't frenzy. You've got access to basically a condition-like effect.
Yeah, the Blackclads have that, correct?
It's the Blackclad Stone Shapers specifically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have access to either +2 damage for a Wold or remove a Fury.
Okay. And then you've also got healing for the Wolds because of the theme benefit.
Yep.
Whereas otherwise, normally you could knock something out on them and
it would be a problem.
Yep.
The stones also have potentially a healing field, and the Blackclad Stone Shapers can repair.
Yep. So there's a lot of ways to keep everything in this list fairly self-sufficient, and if it does need help, the help is readily available.
Yeah, it's really neat because I think a lot of Circle has really been focused on the living side recently. So taking a look back at Bones and just the number of tools and the number of sort of magical flexibility that it has. This is a list that one might consider including the Hermit in. I think he'd be a good piece to consider.
Yep.
Because telemetry would benefit a lot of the things here quite a bit.
Fyanna normally does well into the living side of things too. I built the list to deal with Tharn because it turns out Iona hits real hard, but a reroll to hit is not the same as an actual mat boost.
Correct. So with the list pairing of Fyanna and Wurmwood here, I would feel confident dropping Wurmwood, but I think you have to assume that I might drop Fyanna because
Iona?
she does, or pardon me, Iona, and drop your Fyanna because she does kind of demand that answer, like a fairly teched one.
Yep. And here's Cassius going up. He casts Stranglehold a couple times. I believe he gets Golab and the other Nerf that you didn't hit before.
I mean, Cassius just ran into the woods. Wurmwood's the person actually doing the casting.
So now all of my heavies are, except for the Seraph, I believe, are Stranglehold.
Oh, and you may have missed it, but Linus crit stationaried one of the Nerfs.
Yeah, she did, because Linus is a dick.
So I'm like, oh, great. I don't need to boost to hit that Stranglehold anymore. I can just boost damage. That really helps my resource problem.
I hate Linus so much. She should just be blighted by now. Make it happen, PP. I believe in you.
So I Strangleheld Golab, and I Strangleheld the other Nerf.
Yep.
So we've now got 3 Strangleheld heavies and 1 Seraph.
Yep, and the Seraph is not Stranglehold. I believe you debated Strangleholding him too, but the thought was, he's not that scary. He's more of a support piece than anything.
That was the argument that I made. Wurmwood is on, as I mentioned before, 2 corpses, 1 transfer, and I've now put down a forest.
Yep.
So Wurmwood is also prowling in a trench.
And immovable, all that other stuff.
Yeah, all of the Wurmwood nonsense.
Yep. So swap it over, and I'm immediately looking at the board going, cool, my birds are way too far back to be relevant to anything. Every single one of my heavies is Stranglehold, which means I can't actually make attacks and move.
Except for the Seraph.
So he gets his apparition because I actually remembered it 2 turns in a row. I'm proud of myself.
I think that's an achievement.
Yeah. I mean, unlock. Somebody give me a trophy.
Hashtag participation.
There you go. So I'm looking at the board and just trying to figure out what the hell can I actually do. There's not a great number of plays. I've got attractors available with the Nerfs, which help with movement. I believe I ask you here if Megalith can be moved.
Megalith can totally be moved.
Yep, because I have Gallows available, although I don't necessarily want to rely on it because it's only a D6, and if I try to do it twice, I'm sitting on 0 camp in front of a lot of guns and a caster who can really reach out and touch me in bad ways.
Mm-hmm.
So there's quite a bit of debate in my head over what the correct course of action here is, how I'm actually going to keep this game going.
Yeah, one of the things that's cool is if you manage to double Gallows line of play, you probably drag Megalith into melee with something.
Yes. I could probably grab him into at least one of the Nerfs or close enough where one can sack its action, move into the correct spot, and then attractor him in even further.
Yeah, or have the Nerf, attractor him into Golab or something like that.
Something along those lines where I could maybe get him to a place. The hard part there is because Gallows is only a random D6. You're really hoping to roll well and then be in a spot safe enough where something else can't get to you.
Sure.
Between Hellmouth being able to move Fyanna around if she comes out too far, the ports from the stones, and just how the angles this list can take, it gets really, I guess, mind intensive to try and get it.
Yeah, I've played like a low key version of Helios once, where I pulled someone 3 inches with a Gallows out from behind a wall, then 3 inches forward with a second Gallows.
Yep.
And that was enough to get them into range.
Yep. So Striders go because they're the easy ones, and they try and pick off a couple more Stone Boys, or Twig Boys. Twig Boys.
I think they're Twig folk. They're Twig people. I'm not gonna assume the gender of these Twigs.
Fair enough. I believe again they get one of them and nothing else. So my Striders are now, I believe, 2 for 6. So they are absolutely running at about a 33% capacity. Very proud of them.
In their defense, there are fewer of them than we started this game with.
Yep, losing 3 top of 1 is still painful. That hurts a lot. Way more than it should, realistically.
Well, ideally they're a speed bump, right? Like there's something that I have to deal with, that you can engage with, that you can jam with, that you can hold line with.
Yes.
So you don't have to commit pieces that you're more anxious about. And because I got to mitigate that speed bump as much as I did,
yep.
You've had to move things a little bit further forward than you maybe wanted to.
Yeah. So Golab gives up his action to move over into the zone, because if he's not going to contribute anything, he can at least score a point, I guess. The other Nerf goes forward and attractors Megalith by giving up his action. And
Megalith's a sucker for that kind of thing.
He is.
Pretty looking bird shows up and he's there.
All in on that. I don't blame him. And then it is, I believe, at this point that I start talking about possibly sending the Seraph in at Wurmwood, because there is in fact a line there, and now he's not taking us free strike from Megalith. So Fyanna goes up and throws Fury on a Seraph, because POW 16 is a lot better than 13. He still has crit poison, so if
Wurmwood is alive.
Yeah.
Despite all expectations, he's a living tree, and that's a thing you can crit poison into.
Turns out. So I'm planning for that, but also kind of looking at it and saying, well, if I kill him and the game ends right now, I should probably do things like a tournament and maybe try to score some points. So
yeah, we do try to play our games in a sort of simulated tournament environment with a little bit of flexibility. So at this point, you're thinking like, okay, position as if I was ready to score points, position to take advantage of those things.
Yep. If things ended right now, what would I do? So the Spell Martyr runs to the flag. Kralix, as a boss, takes an aim and shoots at that twig folk, and, hits him, her, it, hits it.
Twig is dead.
Just kills Twiggy. And then at this point you go, oh, hey, wait, doesn't Kralix have Swift Hunter? And I'm like, oh, absolutely does. I should have remembered that. So Kralix goes forward, pops
shoots
second
another
shot,
twig,
gets it and knocks it out.
Picking those branches off, and oh look, with that second Swift Hunter move, who's in range?
Lanissa, what's up, friend?
Archer fight.
Hits Lanissa and just poison one-shots her into the dirt.
Yeah, this is dice -1. She doesn't have very many boxes.
No.
Lanissa's gone.
So Kralix gets his vengeance for stationarying my Nerf. How dare you? and then moves closer to the flag as to be as threatening as possible. He's already done more work than that entire unit of Striders.
Kralix is a pretty amazing solo. I think he's one of those underappreciated ones.
Yep.
Just 3 gunshots is so strong.
3 poison gunshots that are blessed, which is oddly relevant at times.
Blessed is a thing folks forget.
Yep. So the other sorceress that's still alive moves over and makes sure the Seraph is still in range for the free charge. Puts up Wind Ravager to stop the Woldweirds over there. And then Seraph says, all right, well, let's do this. Leroy Jenkins, and charges Wurmwood.
Leroy Jenkins.
Need not ones to hit. Actually rolling it despite auto hitting because crit poison is a thing that exists.
Yep.
I believe I rolled a 3 here to hit him.
It was a 7. It's a 7. It's
Okay.
Not a crit poison,
Nope,
which is the
not a
important
crit.
part. However, charge attack does 11 damage, so
Yep.
I immediately opt to use the 1 transfer. I have to transfer that.
Yep. And that
Good start, Seraph. Good job being a hero.
Yep, goes to the 5, and I believe cripples the one dude.
Buys an attack, rolls boxcars, crit poison. It's happening.
It's doing it. Seraph's gonna do. Oh,
That's a 1/1/2.
yep. That's
Wurmwood opts to take that damage.
of course he does. Third one rolls hits, doesn't crit on that one, but I believe he does 2 there.
Yep. Couple more points of damage.
Yep. At this point, I'm looking at it and saying I probably don't kill him. Oh, except I hit the crit again. So now we're doing
Yeah, so you got 2 out of 4 attacks crit, which
Yep.
is pretty impressive. But you had a couple of attacks that are a little bit below average. I think Wurmwood is alive on 8 boxes.
Yep. Seraph almost did his job. Had I rolled the 18 there, that just put Wurmwood into the dirt. Very unlikely, but it would have been amazing had it happened.
So if you're wondering why Kralix didn't get involved in the assassination plan there, Kralix was outside of range to get within prowl, because Wurmwood currently has stealth and Kralix does not have Eyeless Sight.
He does not.
Kralix might have been able to walk 7 inches forward and Swift Hunter twice, but could not have done it with 1 Swift Hunter. We checked to see if the was in for 14.
Yeah. So it was would have had to been 2, and that 1 extra shot might have done it. That might have been the smarter play, but it seemed like getting rid of Lanissa was probably not a bad bet just because of Vendetta Legion and the aura she can put out that does shut down flight and everything else.
Well, and I think you felt like you needed to secure the aiming bonus to kill the engaged man too. So, because this is obviously the Fyanna feat turn, she did feat when she activated. Yep. We're jamming with all the birds.
Yep, birds be jamming, man. They are now going up. I'm making sure to stay 3 inches away from Fyanna so that at no point can a bird get hell-mouthed and drag her in a place I don't want her to be, because that is a thing that absolutely will happen with Wurmwood.
Yeah, for sure. If you give me an opportunity to drag Fyanna to her death, she's coming. She's coming along.
Yep. So they are taking up a lot of landing spaces, though. I'm worried about things trampling in and just start taking swings, because while it is feat turn, all of my stuff is still fairly squishy. Like, the defense only helps so much. A lot of the times a boost can just negate it, and it becomes kind of a coin flip.
I think the best defensive feature of your feat is just not being attacked at all.
Yep.
The dodge element of it.
Yes. Being able to, say, hey, if you miss this, you don't get any more attacks, especially when all your heavies are 1-inch melee range, means you have to boost every attack roll that you make.
Absolutely.
So, Forsaken goes up and pulls off Fury from that Nerif that ran up to say hello, because he wasn't doing anything else. And I flip the clock.
Mm-hmm. So, I've got some decisions to make here. Obviously, everything's pretty hard to hit, and I also didn't expect Wurmwood to go down to 8 boxes, so I'm a bit more maybe anxious than I was before. I spawn a Sentry Stone Mannequin friend in a position to nail Kralix and a Strider with a spray. Kralix is in the feat range, so I'm just looking for, like, I don't know, with an aim, looking for like a boosted 12 or something like that.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. So I'm taking a lot of shots, but I'm not expecting to get as much work done this turn as I would on a turn that didn't have a +3 defense bonus.
Yep.
Megalith's Undergrowth is actually a pretty big deal in this matchup. Gives me the opportunity to basically give a +2 map buff to everything. And I'm looking to find stuff to kill that Seraph with. Megalith can't properly disengage the Nerf and also engage the Seraph. So something like the back arc and the +3 is not really available to me. So Megalith's just going to try to kill, maybe put some damage on the Nerf, try to soften everything else up and be an undergrowth beacon. And then everything else is going to focus on other angles of attrition. So the first step is I look to see if the Guardian can be ported past the Nerf. It can't really. Then I look to see where Megalith can go. He's got some options, but not very many. Rand's done a really good job of playing a KG turn here. Not only is he in position to have just scored 2 points, but it's unlikely I'll be able to contest that third point. He's probably going to score with Golab in that top zone again, and there's not very much I can do about it. I could give away a piece, but I want to be in a position where I don't have to. So this turn I'm looking to score a point of my own, get up in the zone, and ideally not put him in a position to be able to win on scenario next turn.
Yep. Yeah.
So first thing's some Megalith. Megalith undergrowthed, and he boosts to hit his first initial on the
Nerf in his face.
The Nerf, and give it -3 speed and defense.
Yep, that is very sad. So they effectively cancels out the feat, and then undergrowth makes him basically defense 12.
Yeah, so I decide, needing a 5, I don't boost the second attack, and that one misses.
Yep.
Sorry, pardon me. Undergrowth, boost to hit. Oh, sorry, I simply made another attack at the Strider, which with a combination of a back arc and undergrowth hit without boosting.
Yep.
And then I bought an attack on the Nerf, missed, and it dodged forward.
Yep.
I asked, do you want to dodge away? And you're like, well, if you're out of attacks, I'm happy to stay in melee. And I'm like, that seems perfectly reasonable. Yep. So the next thing is we get some... I think we're just mathing out what...
I think
sorry, this is a Bone Grinder charge.
Yes.
So the unit of Bone Grinders, only one of them gets to charge. It charges into the Seraph. Benefiting from Undergrowth, I do hit, and with Dismember, I do a ton of damage.
Yeah, it was 14 on him.
Yeah, he rolls a 20 on 4 dice, which is pretty insane.
Just half kill a Nerf.
Yep,
or
the Seraph, should I say. And the Seraph is, it's now grievously wounded.
Yes.
So it's missing, I think, Spirit and Mind or something?
Yep. It is missing at least Spirit, if not Spirit and Mind.
Yeah. At this point, if it was missing Body, I could almost ignore it.
Almost.
I could almost just not worry about killing it, but I do still have to commit resources to killing it at this point. So I send the Guardian in. The Guardian gets ported into its back arc, boosts to hit its first initial just because I want to play it safe, and kills it in its first attack.
Yeah, just takes it right off the table, which, it's fine. He did his job.
Yeah, really scared Wurmwood. Got me down to not very many boxes. Still forcing me to play a little bit conservatively around the feet.
Yeah.
So now it's Sentry Stone sprays.
Yep. And they are targeting Kralix and trying to hit that other Strider that's there.
Yep. Yeah, the aiming guy just sort of tried to boost on Kralix and boost on the Strider. Missed Kralix and hit and killed the Strider. Kralix gets a free dodge move, so he dodges out of range of one of them, still just in range of the other.
Yes, and then you getting the Spell Murder that's on the flag as well.
Yep.
But I believe he's out of range.
That's important.
So, just insta-kill him because 12-12 with one box is not terribly...
Not the stat line that's necessarily going to save you.
No, not at all.
So once again, the Sentry Stones have been really just printing money. They're maybe my favorite unit in all of Circle.
Yep.
And it's funny because you don't actually get to see them played very much because they're really only available in Bones.
Yep.
But in Bones, I think they're maybe one of the best theme benefits is just access to Sentry Stones.
Yeah, it's a lot like Hellmouths for me.
Yeah.
But the second one misses his attack on Kralix, and Kralix goes towards the flag, though he is not on it.
Not quite. Almost. And I have one unboosted Rat 4 shot that could try to roll boxcars to hit him, and I'm just like, no, I won't take that shot.
I really wish you would have. I could have been on the flag.
One of those Sentry Stone friends is contesting the flag.
Yes, so it wasn't scoring anyway.
At least that, but I still don't really want to put him on that flag.
Just don't want to just let him aim next turn?
Not especially. I mean, he could probably aim and just kill something and Swift Hunter onto it too.
It's true.
Like the man is a Swiss Army knife of arms.
Literally. He has 4 of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of arms. Is it only 4 arms? I feel like he has to have 6, right? His 3 bows.
He's got one bow. He just fires off 3 arrows.
Oh, he's just really fast?
Yep.
Oh, I see. It's 3 arms that reload.
There you go.
That's what it is. That's cool.
He's always ready.
Ugh. He was born ready. He makes Hawkeye look like he's not trying very hard.
Get on my level, son.
So the Wold Weird backs out of range of the Wind Ravager.
Sure does.
And this is the damaged one, so I kind of like bringing it back too and then having it kind of heal later. It boosts to hit a shot on the Sorceress on Hellion.
Yep. Hits Def 17 and just one-shots him.
Yeah. Doesn't happen every time, but it's nice when it does.
Woldbeard's totally fair and balanced.
That's all that Woldbeard gets to do, but frankly, that's enough.
Yep, that seems good.
Woldwarden gets +2 strength from the Stonekeeper. And he makes his first attack on this Nerif and boosts to hit and misses.
Wah, wah.
And unfortunately, that has that Nerif dodging into contesting range of the flag.
Definitely didn't plan that, but I'm glad it worked out.
Geomancy Stranglehold, and I managed to hit and Stranglehold Golab.
Yep. Golab is a very sad boy this game.
We're now 2 for 2 turns of Golab being Stranglehold.
Which is the thing I was trying to avoid. Really, really did not want him to just be Strangleheld all the time, but...
And yet, here we are.
Yeah. Oh.
So, what we're getting here is...
I believe that's the other Stranglehold on the Nerif.
I think that might have been the Sentry Stone unit. Yeah, so at this point I'm just sort of debating, because I'm down to the 1 Wold and Megalith's already activated. I haven't gone with Wurmwood yet, so that was just the Sentry Stone unit.
Okay.
So now I'm deciding... Oh, no, you know what that was? That was the Wold Watcher.
That's right.
Or pardon me, the Wold Weird, who aimed and shot and killed Kralix.
Yep. He's a jerk.
Pretty all right.
Kralix was primed and ready to do some more work.
And
gone before his time.
Alas, he had to die. So now I'm trying to score points because, again, it becomes really, really important that I scored a not necessarily equalize, but at least, engage with the scenario so I'm not about to lose. What I'm looking to do is actually make scenario not a win condition for Ryan. Make it not available as that.
Yeah.
So I run Cassius to the far end of the zone so that if I need to, I can port Wurmwood to the middle of nowhere.
And then Wurmwood...
Wurmwood boosts a Hellmouth.
Which grabs the Nerif.
At a bird. Pulling the Nerif out.
And gets 4 birds here, I believe?
Yeah.
So it just auto-RFPs all of those birds because they're only ARM 11.
On the Nerif, I seriously debate boosting. I mean, this is good attrition damage, but I decide not to so that I've got the ability to cast a forest and teleport if I need to.
Yep.
Because I spent 5 on that Hellmouth already, and I'd like to have a transfer. I teleport over to Cassius. I'm behind a wall. I'm maybe a little bit better defended than before. I don't have... I think I have maybe 1 soul.
You've got
at this point? 2 souls? Okay.
2 souls, I believe.
Yes.
2 souls, 2 transfers. And then we're discussing, okay, well, you're not too scared of that Nerif. You don't think you can get there until I point out he has Overtake. There's a non-zero chance he could get there, and you're only on 8 boxes.
Yeah, so I don't heal down to 0. I just camp the 2. Camping 2 on 8 boxes feels safer. I've done some things here, like I've left some wolds like way out of control. I've got Megalith, I've got the Guardian, I've got the 1 wold who's in this side, but I've really made an aggressive choice to commit over to this zone. Wurmwood can rapidly redeploy pretty effectively, but I've tried to stay as far away from the things that can hurt me as possible.
Yep, which being down to 8 boxes is probably not a bad move.
Correct.
I take a shot at, I believe it was the Forsaken back there, and missed him, so he just walked out of range.
Yeah, this wold just aimed and shot. It can't boost because it's out of control range. So
yeah. So otherwise it takes out a couple birds because that's not too hard. All right,
I'm trying to be careful not to shoot anything that could then dodge into contesting range of the flag that I just put a lot of energy into clearing up.
Right. So end
of
turn.
I'm not shooting the Nerif.
You scored 2. I scored 1.
Yes.
So it's now 3-2 on scenario.
Yep.
And most of my heavies are Stranglehold again. Golab
It's
is...
actually, it's only one heavy that's Stranglehold now.
Yeah, just Golab, which, definitely isn't important at all. Disappointing.
I mean, he can still score that zone.
Yep, that's about all he's doing, unfortunately. Great use of 17 points.
17. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Megalith's 20, so.
Yep, it's certainly a thing. So Forsaken, that was on the top part, goes up, and he had 2 Fury on him, so he blows up, rolling 6 dice on Megalith, and I roll like 3 damage.
Yeah, it's not as much as you would like to. I think it's 5. I think it's 5 damage, but
it's
I think it
way less than it wanted.
Probably should have been like 11.
Yep.
Like it's pretty bad.
Yep. But the thought process is if I can do a couple points to him, I still have a few birds over there, that procs finisher on them, and at least chips in something, and that Nerif can still make attacks. So I look to see if I could possibly get to Wurmwood. Unfortunately, I'm down to speed 4, so even with a 7-inch charge, I think I'd need all 3 overtakes to try and get there, which means I'd get 1 attack on Wurmwood, and that just does not seem worth it.
I have the 1 transfer for that 1 attack.
Yes. So
I guess maybe do you get 2 attacks because you have a tail, right?
Yes. So but I don't get the free charge anymore is the problem because both sorts are dead.
Yep. Nope. That's not going to work.
Yep. So disappointing, but I deal with it. Make the easy choice where birds are going to go do bird things first because that'll clear out some space and we'll see what damage they produce.
It's what, 3 birds on Megalith and 1 bird on the Wold?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, you debated furying these birds. But decided you felt like you wanted Fury on the Nerif instead?
Yes.
Okay.
So Fury birds are POW 12 finisher, which is great. Fury Nerif is POW 18 auto hitting.
Right.
So
the chance that a bird could miss is not worth thinking about?
Yeah.
So the first bird who charged the Wold, the Wold Warden, Wold Watcher? Wold, I think it's a Warden. Anyway, I don't know why these guys specifically, I just can't keep their names in my head.
Yeah. He hits and he does decent damage. I think it's 5 or 6. Which isn't terrible.
First bird who charged Megalith, unfortunately, double 1s to hit misses.
Yep. Right as I say, I just need not 1s. Never mind.
Second bird, though, hits Megalith and puts at least a few points in.
Yep, he puts 5 or 6, I believe.
Yep.
And then the third one makes up for the other ones and rolls nothing but 5s and 6s.
He does 11 damage to Megalith or something wild. Like, he just really crunches it. At this point, I think Megalith is on maybe 14 boxes.
Something like right that. Around there. So we look at it, and the Nerif just decides, well, he's going to go to town and see what he can do. And
he does not roll spectacularly well. He rolls average with the tail and does 1 point of damage. But then he makes a head attack, which now auto hits.
Sure does.
And you do some math, and you think about it for a second, and you say, okay, at POW 15, dice minus 4, I should boost damage here. Which I think is easily the right answer.
Yep, that checks out. I believe I'm looking at some other weird play here going, okay, well, can this thing move or can that? I don't exactly remember what I was thinking.
Such is life.
Oh, no, the Nerf didn't actually go yet. This is Fyanna. That's right. She went first because I needed to get Fury on that right-hand Nerf. So there's a Strider that made a shot into a black-clad Stone Shaper back there, leaves it on 1 box, and then Fyanna comes up to say hello.
Yeah, it was the Strider who rolled a 7. I forgot to stone form with the UA this turn, so he just is armor 13. You rolled 7 and dice minus 3. You do 4 damage, and you're like, he's almost dead. What if Fyanna just walked up, killed him, maybe kill something else with a bot attack, and then can just sprint back effortlessly?
Yep.
So you Fury, you cast Sprint, you make an attack, you crit. She's got crit Smite, I think.
Yep, she does.
You just throw him 6 inches.
Now he's going to die outside the zone. He doesn't even get the pleasure.
Correct. I thought for a second, like, maybe he'll smite him into Wurmwood's collection range, but no, you don't.
Nah, didn't even think of that. I'm good at this game, I swear. So I try to make a second attack, and I believe I missed the other Stone Shaper and decide it's easier just to sprint back and camp 2 and hopefully stay alive. So the right-hand Nerif goes up onto the Geomancy Wold, whose name I also don't remember.
I think Warden. Anyway, Wold something.
Stone Boy.
Yeah.
Tail hits, doesn't do a ton of damage. I believe he does 1 or 2, but now it's auto-hitting POW 18s.
Yeah, auto-hitting POW 18s are pretty solid, and you do a lot of damage. This guy cranks it pretty hard.
Yep.
Kills the wold with only, I think you've got even room for another attack.
Yep, buys one more into the old weird, and doesn't crank damage real hard there. I think he rolls like a 3, so puts a couple points on him, but then sprints to contest the flag.
Yeah, that important sprint to contest the flag is a power move, because I was like, if you send the Nerf in to kill the wold, then you won't be able to contest the flag, and that's good for me. And then you're like, and then of course Nerfs have sprint, and I was like, yep, you've clearly thought about this. That's good.
Professional player.
Well, you have a podcast, so you're good at this game.
That's not how this works at all. That's absolutely not how that works.
I'm pretty sure people on podcasts are just good.
I
heard that on a podcast once.
Oh, all right, that checks out then. It was on the internet. It's got to be true.
Correct.
So the other Nerf, I believe, is now going?
So this is the Nerf we talked a little bit about before, who kind of doesn't roll spectacularly against Megalith.
Nope.
Megalith only has 14 boxes, and I think at the end of this, Megalith has 5 boxes.
Yeah, he's still alive and should be dead. He very much should have died this turn. But I managed to roll better not boosting than actually boosting the damage roll on him. I believe my 1 boost netted me 1 damage, and the 2 attacks that I didn't netted me like 7. So,
Yep.
Because that's how math works, kids.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, you can know all the things you know about statistics, but there are still dice involved in this game.
Yep.
And you still have to respect that sometimes that's how it goes down.
Yeah. Golab sacks his action again, and I figure, okay, I can move him to the far side of the zone. Hopefully he's at least out of range of getting strangleheld for a 3rd turn in a row. You're way on the other side of the field. I don't think you'll be able to get to that Gallows Grove. And
spoiler alert, he's not out of range.
He's never out of range, apparently.
It is pretty absurd. The amount of table presence that Wurmwood has is pretty silly.
Yeah. And the Feral Geist that's been hiding back there moves in just into the forest to contest the flag. I was kind of just hoping that you'd miss him. He's def 14. It's not great, but
yeah, I mean,
I wasn't going to give you the easy point.
The sprays need 10s to hit him, so
yeah,
certainly have missed 10s before.
So we pass the clock, and I believe I score 1, you score nothing, so we're 4-2.
Yeah, you now have a 2-point scenario lead, which is a pretty big deal. But you've taken out a heavy.
Yep.
Which is a big deal, but I still have a lot of pieces.
Yeah, and Megalith still being alive is really hurting me here. I think if he was gone, that opens up a couple avenues for maybe late game, but the fact that he's still there, and I'm down 2 heavies with a 3rd that hasn't been able to do anything, is making my job hard.
Poor Golab, he's been pretty aggressively locked out.
Sad boy.
So the Stone Shaper activates first, and he quiets the stone, removes the fury from the wold.
Yeah. It's worth noting at this point, if you can, I don't know how well you can see the clock, but we've both been taking quite a while for our turns. It might not look like it in the video because of the speed increase, but
at this stage, you've got 4.5 minutes. I've got 6 minutes. One of the things we said is if it gets low and the game state is still kind of interesting, we'll probably play it out either way. But I think this is the turn where I do actually clock.
Yeah.
I charge the Sentry Stones in at the Nerf there, and they get to do some boosting, and they get to boost hit and boost damage, and they manage to take it out.
Yep.
Which is great.
Yeah, he was on 12 or 13 boxes, so it wasn't unreasonable to get rid of him.
Second unit of Sentry Stones, they boost on the Feral Geist and manage to kill it off.
Yep, just casually get rid of him, so that takes my contesting pieces out on that side. And I'm really starting to run low on pieces, which is another problem.
Running low on pieces, running low on clock, losing your scenario advantage. It's tough.
Yep.
So this is a cute line of play. The Black Cloud walks to the other side of the stone and phase jumps to teleport completely within 12 inches and be on the flag.
Yep.
I thought that was fun. It's just, solos wherever you want them to be.
Yep. Definitely didn't see that one coming. I figured you'd have to put Cassius up there, and nope. Just he jumps in.
Cassius is too valuable. She's got to be running everywhere else. So Megalith undergrowths and then just does a bunch of punching.
Yep. Just murders that other Nerf.
No, the Nerf died to Sentry Stones.
Yep, that's right.
Megalith kills birds.
Good use of Megalith.
Well, honestly, it kind of is. And then he Geomancies a Stranglehold, but I think... Oh, yeah, he Geomancies a Stranglehold at the Forsaken and hits it and kills
just kills him.
So Megalith killed 4 things with 4 Fury, which is pretty all right.
Yep. It's Not bad at all.
Cassius is running.
He moves over, and I believe this is the cute teleportation between him and Wurmwood.
So Wurmwood teleports to within 2 ranges of Cassius. And then I teleport again. Again, this is the turn I have 10 Fury.
Yep.
So I've got all the corpses I need.
Yep, there you're measuring out if you can actually use that Gallows Grove.
I can't yet, but you wait.
Yep, teleport Cassius again and teleport Wurmwood again. So, hey, look, Gallows Grove is now in range, and we're going to Stranglehold Golab again.
Hello, Golab. I hit Golab and have Fury to boost damage. I boost damage and do enough points to Stranglehold Golab again.
Oh, 3 turns in a row.
Wurmwood is on 1 Fury. I spent 9 Fury
to move.
Gallowsing Golab this turn.
To Stranglehold and move.
It was 6 to teleport 3 times and 3 to Stranglehold.
Yep.
Worth it.
Oh, Golab is very sad, and he's down to, I think, 17 or 18 boxes at this point just from getting Stranglehold. And there's nothing he can do about it. He's just standing there taking it like a champ.
So the now in control range, Wold Weird walks into range of the Neraf, who's Furied, and with Gunfighter and Purgation just blows it the F up.
Yep, I completely forgot they had Gunfighter. I thought I'd be a little bit safer, and it turns out I was very wrong.
Yeah, we even get to boost the damage roll there, and it just annihilates him.
Yep. He's now a fine pink mist.
Yeah, I wonder if Nerfs are pink. I think, yeah, the blood's all pretty bloody, right?
That checks out.
So the Wold here walks into the zone, which I'm finally participating in Ryan's zone, which is good, and takes a shot, trying to shoot a Forsaken, maybe misses.
Yep.
I think about a couple of other different options, but in general, I'm pretty happy with
this is the Woldward that went up, shot at the Forsaken, and then we realized that he was out of range, maybe? Was that this turn?
Shot. Or no, I thought about him shooting something else, but he was out of range. No, the Forsaken was killed by a Megalith Geomancy Stranglehold.
Yes.
The other one shot the other Forsaken and missed. Yep. This one moves up and he casts Arcane Suppression, his Animus.
Yep.
And is just in the trench. So he's just putting down a bubble of spells cost more on the off chance that Fyanna has like a KG line of play.
Yep, which it turns out she kind of does.
Yeah.
So, we flip clock over, acknowledging that, yes, if this was a real tournament, it would have clocked. But we're going to finish it out because it looks interesting.
So this is the turn where I'd basically clock, but we want to see the end of the game.
So I'm looking at Fyanna right now, and she's basically the only thing left. And it's very much a moment of, well, I don't really have a lot of lines of play here, so let's see what kind of janky assassination I can do. First I'm looking at, okay, well, can I overtake to get her onto the tree? And there was 1 overtake target, but I was going to need like 4 more to try and get there in melee. Not ideal.
Not ideal.
No. So that's out. Why couldn't you just put all your little twig people on that side?
They were all up at the top because I thought that's where your birds were.
Well, they should have been at the bottom. This would have made my turn so much easier. So, it's at this point I'm going, well, I don't really have any better options. Can I gallows the trees? Not in a forest. And we say that, no, we can't be moved, but you can just gallows twice.
Still damages them.
Yep.
Yep. It's a damaging spell.
So, Forsaken...
no corpses this turn, too.
No. So the Forsaken goes up, and he blows up. And the Wold Weird over there that's got only 1 Fury on it, it's at this point that I realize he probably should have charged and just bought attacks into the Wold Weird because he's a POW 12 and that would have done more damage. But
fair.
Definitely didn't consider that, and maybe would have been the better play there because that is your only transfer target.
Correct. That Wold is the only Wold who is not full right now.
Yeah.
The Strider moves up and takes a shot and puts a point of damage into Wurmwood.
Sure does.
And Fiona's going for it. She charges the Wold and she gallows.
Yep. I believe I do her 1 attack because you have to finish it, but yeah. And we gallows, and Wurmwood takes 4 here. Leaves him on 4 with 1 transfer, and I have no other attacks after the second gallows.
And the second gallows would be sufficient to kill him, but Wurmwood is able to transfer the 4 damage to that Wold.
Yep.
Does not backlash and does not die. And we're looking at that, and clock or the scenario conditions at this point, that's functionally the end. Wurmwood would score to 7 to 4, I think.
I think it was 8. I think it was 8 to 4.
8 to 4. 8 to 4.
And then you could have just looked at it and said shipped clock back game.
Then that would be the game. Anyway, great game. Obviously, I think Ryan played incredibly tight and really well. There was some really challenging and neat nuances to the matchup. I'm clearly a little slow with Wurmwood, and I'm happy to see the victory on that notion alone. Any post-game thoughts? Any stuff about the matchup or the game? Or
I haven't seen Wurmwood in a while, so it was kind of a weird throwback to almost like the beginning of Mark III to look at him again and be like, oh, I remember there's just hundreds of angles, and like you had said earlier, it's a lot like Mark II Haley 2. Yep. You have to consider every angle, you have to consider every possible way that something could get to you, and then hope that the Wurmwood player isn't actually just a better player than you.
And, sometimes they just get lucky, too. Like, my wilds rolled crazy, crazy good.
Yep, that happens.
Anyway, folks, that's our episode for this week. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you're watching this on our Patreon, thank you very much. You got it a week early, and you're awesome. Your support helps us do things like pay for Evan's Adobe Premium subscription. If you are watching this on YouTube, that's also awesome, and we're glad to have you as viewers. And see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for coming.